Weighing in on loneliness today and the trend towards going your own way and being single in life and being alone when you were older, and basically men especially giving up on the dating scene today. Let's get into it and let's get into some of the implications of it. Let's go. A very good morning to you. Let's start off. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell for all notifications. Audio, metal detecting, crabbing, cooking, just so much stuff we do on the channel here. Love you to be a part of it, but let's get into this here. As you can see by recently, I've started to keep track over the last couple years of people that want to go their own way and encourage people to go their own way in life, particularly men who seem to, in 2024 going into 2025, becoming more and more discouraged in life and more determined to go their own way and settling themselves down to the fact that they may not ever find that true love, have a family, and things like that. It's a tremendous shift in society today. And if you think I'm going to come on here and blame women, I'm not going to do that, okay? The empowerment of women has had many positive things in society here, but it's also been something that we've really underestimated as the rise in power, financial acumen, and achievement has risen with women, particularly in Western nations. We have a situation where trying to cope with that psychologically, if you're a man, seems to be becoming more and more difficult to do. How do you find your place? Up until the 1960s, it was pretty well defined what your place was. Breadwinner, and there was a certain order to society and also the domestic life that, far from being perfect, it was very functional in terms of production, in terms of growth, in terms of, living what seems to be a more fulfilled and a more, like a higher standard of living. With the benefit of age, and I'm 66 years old, I think I have an edge over people that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that talk about the single life and talk about loneliness and why you would want this, why you would want to seek this out for yourself. I've seen a lot of change over the years. And how many of us look back at movies and TV shows from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s and think to ourselves, wow, how did they do that? Have that standard of living? They have a car, they got a home. You know, there were implications when the workforce broadens in the way of participation. For one thing, it increases many more wants in our society. And this time, instead of wants being mainly maybe driven by the man in large ways of houses and consumer goods and things like that, it's more to the fore also to these days of specifically catering to women who seem to make most of the buying decisions within the households now. And this expansion of a workforce that's dedicated led us to a point in society where a couple things have happened. First of all, it's harder to achieve that standard of living because what used to take one person now takes two. Now it's a chicken and egg thing. It's become harder. Now it does take two to do it, or it is having additional people in the workforce expanded to the point where inflationary pressures, particularly, and pressures of downsizing, packaging, and making things smaller, shrinkflation has really taken over much, and we see evidence today where people are just struggling to make ends meet. And if it were not for the availability of fairly cheap credit in America, it's very doubtful people could exist on a cash and carry basis. The question is, did the overexpansion and participation of the growth of the economy and things like that bring us to a point now where we're enslaved, absolutely slaves, to be participants in the workforce? And should one person drop out, the ramifications are dramatic in terms of falling standards of living and all of that. Well, people also have, especially men, have come to see that their place is very ill-defined in society today. As I said, it used to be a breadwinner role, and the domestic stuff and the child rearing was mainly done by women. And again, don't come into my comment section. Oh, you're just you're a misogynist, and no, I'm not. I love the ladies, and they know I love them. But what I'm saying is, it's too hard. A man now has to think what he can really offer up in a relationship, and with the empowerment of women has become much of the psychological diminishment of the male, particularly in the West, and I especially see it in the United States here as men just withdraw, get into gaming, because it's a no blowback pursuit. It doesn't, there's no two-way street. Get off of that, go do this, or go do that. You don't have any ambition. It's quiet solitude. It's that being alone, that men going their own way sort of phenomena that's now sweeping the country, and the implications are really extreme. When you've built up a culture where, and also a society and a world where you really depend on an increasing population base to support and keep going, especially as we get older, to be supported by the young, we see that withering away now in society. We see that less and less people are in the workforce able to support and contribute to the upkeep of the elderly. Because, well, there's less and less people. There's less and less children being born today. Population rates around the world are collapsing. And one of the big reasons is this overexpansion of the workforce has created over the last 50, 60 years, 70 years, a dramatic expansion in wants and desires, and bigger, better, faster, nicer homes, all this sort of thing. And we yearn for that more simple life, but it's virtually impossible to go backwards now without everything coming unhinged. And there's so many videos you'll see now on places like YouTube show you. There's especially strangely, the older people withdrawing and wanting, being preached to be alone. It's a good thing to be alone, and younger people not committing to relationships and not wanting to be involved in relationships, and single mother, the growth of single motherhood to the point where 50% of children are born out of wedlock today. The implications for society, and this is not from a moral perspective, the implications economically for society are really, really extreme in these cases, because it's very hard to put families back together again once you have that sort of situation. So once again, it's left men in a situation where they're walking away in greater and greater numbers from even attempting to move into the dating pool, because it's harder for them psychologically, and the male ego, of course, is a very delicate thing. It's a lot harder to match up in a society where women hold more and more of the power. They have their own finances, and what do you really have to offer in that sort of situation, or what are the expectations and demands that are put on you? It's a very interesting topic, and I'm sure I'm going to have many, many comments down in the comment section down below, but please be nice. Going it alone, as we see in so many countries that are being depopulated, Russia, Japan, Korea, China, they're almost frantic in their efforts to reverse this, but you can't really do it, because you've built standards of living that cannot possibly exist on smaller economic bases of output without severe consequences, impoverishment, and other things in society. In other words, downsizing in a free market system is virtually impossible, right? Especially if people did that on the whole, when people dropped out of the workforce, you would have a much smaller workforce, but we would be back to where we were in the traditional times when the standard of living was within reach. These are very, very serious problems from a population growth point of view, and you can't just throw some money at people and say, we're going to reward you, we're going to give you more family time, we're going to give you more off time to have children and to grow a family. No, people know in their minds something ain't right? There's something that's not clicking right. It's just not making them predisposed about to want to have children, which is far different than, say, 50, 75 years ago. Now we have these lifestyles that are so hard to sustain. It almost, the idea of children has become secondary in our existence, and there's actually people that are starting to revel in teaching this this aspect of you don't need to be with a man or a woman to find happiness. You don't have to bite of the apple, the family thing. So we're intensifying this process of becoming more and more singular units without this societal cohesion that sort of holds us together. And going your own way might be satisfying in a lot of ways, but especially as when you get older and you need support, there's going to be something very important that's missing, especially when you get older and you're on your own, and say you have to have people care for you or something like that. What's going to be absent is that element of love and caring. Right? That only really a family provides that backstop. They may not be able to be there all the time when you're in need, but you know that they're there, and they can come over the hill like the cavalry to bail you out. Now, for some people, there's not a choice, right? You don't have the family members, and well, that's a whole different kettle of fish. But in terms of reveling in separating yourself from society and things like that, we also separate ourselves from a nurturing base. And in isolating ourselves, we find in large pockets of our population now that desolation has set in, particularly among the young and particularly among the old. The middle has not quite been affected to the same extent because, well, to be honest, they're on the treadmill going so fast that they can't take their eyes off of what's ahead and look around them for fear of falling off of the treadmill. So it's a situation where this great change in gender roles has had tremendous implications within society. How will it play out in the end? Well, we don't know. There's some things that are disturbing. There's some things that are wonderful. And I'll be talking about some of them in a future upload. Well, if you enjoyed this, which I hope you did, leave a comment down in the comments section down below about this men and women going their own ways and withdrawing, and people withdrawing from society, and the changing relationship of men and women, particularly as they approach dating and love in their teens and 20s. It's a very interesting topic. Let me know some of your thoughts down below. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the discussion, please take a second to hit the thumbs up button. It is appreciated. Share it out if you enjoyed it. And I will see you. Don't forget to hit that bell for all notifications too. And I will see you on a future video. Thanks for watching.